فَمَا إِسْطَعُوا أَنْ يَظْهَرُهُ وَمَا إِسْتَطَعُوا لَهُ نَقْبًا. Suratul-Kahfi, Surah number 18, Ayat number 97. This verse is immensely complex, and that is an understatement, but let's proceed. So, ma is no, but if you quickly have a look at the construct, it is ma and wama. Fa is sort of it's indicating a causal relationship, cause and effect relationship. That's okay. So ma and wama, that means it's a neither nor statement. So istau, to be able, and it's in the plural. So they were able, and ma is that they were not able. An yadharuhu, to scale it. Now, this is wrong. This is what the translators or the scholars have translated it. Even if you were to do so, then it needs a lot of clarification, not a minor clarification, but a major clarification is required if you want to translate it that. Why did I do that? Because otherwise it becomes immensely complex to represent it. But at least if you don't want to, but if you don't want to do that, at least you have to put within brackets, because that's not the primary meaning, and we'll explain it why that is so. So an yazharuhu, to scale it. Now, have you heard the word zahir? That's one of the attributive names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-zahiru, al-batinu, the manifest, the apparent. So when nothing was there, he was there. So that's another, anyway, huwal awwalu wal akhiru. But there is nothing more manifest than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that there is nothing more hidden than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a dichotomy, it's a beautiful dichotomy. If you want to perceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's so obvious. And if you want, and nothing more, there is nothing more hidden than him. So that's an interesting dichotomy, both of which are simultaneously applicable. Zahir, so the term zahara, to appear, to manifest. Now, how would they, the Gog and Magog people, manifest? They would be able to manifest if they were to come on this side of the wall, because the wall is now there. They're not able to trespass the pass between the two disconnect parts of the mountain range. That's a single barrier now, right? You remember Radman? Saddan we also read, that was the request. Sadafain is the structure before the wall. So now, if there is a wall, what is the natural reaction? The natural reaction, okay, let's read ahead and then I'll explain it in the second iteration, because otherwise it will become too difficult for you to understand, and it will be too difficult for me to be able to explain that as well. Wama istata'u, and nor, so we don't say and nor, no and no, we don't speak like that, neither nor. So after the comma or the semicolon in this case, because there are lots of commas I've used in the first part, basically the first part and the second part. Nor, what happens? Istata'u, they were able, lahu, in it or for it. In it is more natural, I'll explain the for it part as well. Naqban, which means to make a hole. So, nor were they able to make a hole in it. So the wall is there, right? So if there is a wall, what happens? Either you can scale it, climb over it and come to the other side, or you can drill a hole in it or through it, right? So that way the barrier is breached and you have access to the other side. Simple, isn't it? So I've tried to explain it in simple terms, and we are done through the first iteration. Now, Zahara does not mean to scale it. Definitely not. That can never be the primary meaning. So what is it talking about? Now, if you have observed this word, istata'u and ista'u, remember the first occurrence is ista'u and then the second occurrence is istata'u. The spelling is different. Did Allah make a spelling mistake? No. No. And the variant, I mean, from the same root word, this word appeared so many times. You will not be able to have patience with me. Remember the same root word, ta, wow, ain. And the basic meaning again, I have explained at that time. So this word appeared, I mean, quite a few times, 3, 4, 5 times. You go and have a look at that. So it means how the derived meaning came about. I've explained everything to be able. So obedience, ita'at. So all those meanings I've explained. So anyway, no need to reinvent the wheel. So those you can have a look, but we can actually stick to the derived meaning, which I've explained already, to be able, which is okay, which the scholars of the translation translate as, which is okay. Now, why is there a variance in the spelling? Before that, let us have a look at the translation, because I can sense that you are eager to pounce on me, to criticize. How come the verse in the Arabic language is so small and you have taken 3 lines to explain the same thing in the English language? How come? So let's read through. So neither were they able to scale it because of the perfect construction and appear on the inhabited side. Even the very thought of this relatively easier act didn't occur to them. In turn, they were hidden from the community. Nor were they able to make a hole in it or through it. Where do you invent all these words? This is not bid'ah. No, it's not bid'ah. I'll explain to you. And you will be amazed after the explanation, because you don't hear these sort of explanations. You're not accustomed to these sort of explanations. You are unaware. Now, there is a rhetorics rule at play. I have to move to and fro, back and forth with the English and the Arabic. Otherwise, it's immensely complex to help you understand this. So there are 2 words, istau and istatau. Istatau. 2 words, istau, istatau. Istatau. Ta. Istau and istatau. One of which is the standard spelling and the other is the non-standard spelling. We need to know that. This is simple grammar. The second occurrence, istatau, is the standard spelling. Istau is the non-standard spelling. There is a variance over here. That is the standard one. We don't talk about variance in that spelling. That is the standard normal spelling. So if there are 2 words with a variance in spelling, how can we represent that? There are 2 or 3 levels, 2 or 3 ways in which we can explore this part. The first thing, which one is easier to pronounce? Istau, obviously, the first occurrence where the ta is missing. And istatau is more difficult to pronounce. It's obvious. 2 reasons. One, because it is a longer word, and second reason is the ta and the ta appear close to each other and their sounds are very close to each other. So it's difficult. Now, with this information, background information in mind, with this you being enabled now, I want to make a statement and let me see if you are able to appreciate this or not. So relative to each other, I would say the first spelling is easier and the second spelling is more difficult, right? So far, so good. But actually, it's relative to each other. That's the case. The first spelling is easy and the second spelling is more difficult. But I should rather say the second spelling is the standard form. The first spelling is easier than the standard form. It's easier than the normal. We will not say that the second spelling is harder or more difficult than the first one, because the first one is the non-standard one. So the non-standard, we cannot take it as a base and say the standard one is more hard. We can't do that. I hope you're able to appreciate this part. So the second spelling is the standard one. The first one is an easier variant of the word, at least in terms of pronunciation, in terms of spelling. So far, so good. Now, I said zahara, to appear, to manifest. And there are 2 things by which a wall can be breached. I mean, you are now blocked on the other side. You perpetrated destruction. You are not able to do that. You're yearning to do that, but you are barricaded away. You're blockaded away. You can't do that anymore. So what would your natural inclination be? A question to you. Natural inclination would be to come to the other side somehow and then again create the destruction, corruption, fasad, right? Fitna and fasad. The word facade is used in this context, and rightly so. We're not going to a detailed discussion about the difference between fitna and facade, but okay, we can do that at some other instance, some other session. We will do that, inshallah. Don't worry. So what we are saying is there are two ways. Which would be easier way? So when you see a wall, think of yourself. Don't think of the story now. Think of yourself. You see a wall and you want to go to the other side. What are the two ways? You know the two ways now. One is to jump over it, climb over it, and the other is to make a hole in it or through it. What would your first reaction be? Obviously to climb over it, jump over it, or climb over it, or to scale it and come to the other side. That's the natural reaction. The second, more difficult thing would be to make a hole in it. Who thinks of making a hole in a wall, right? Or making a hole through the wall, complete breach, right? Who thinks of that? So both the ways are valid ways to breach the barrier, but one comes more naturally, more easily. The other is more difficult. It doesn't occur to us naturally, right? So in that sense, they would want to scale it. That is how the derived meaning is coming about. The first person who has translated this made a mistake by not explaining this. And the second and the third and the fourth and any other translation, the 100th translation, the 1000th translation, I don't know how many translations exist, all of them copy pasted. And they simply decided to copy paste and not add to the meaning. How is it? Zahara, how is it to scale it? How is it to climb it? The word climb, the Arabic language, occurs in this story itself. You remember, you find out. I'll not tell you, I'll not spoon feed you. This was in connection to the people of the cave, companions of the cave. Go and find out the word. So only if you're able to scale it, you appear to the people. The Gog and Magog people, if they scale the wall, then they would appear, they would become manifest to the inhabitants on the other side, right? So they would become Zahir. So that is what is being mentioned over here. Now, since Istata'u is the more difficult spelling comparatively, and Ista'u is the that's a standard. Ista'u is the non-standard but a more easier spelling. The easier act is being represented through the easier spelling. That's not even the most important part of why the difference exists. That's just one of the reasons. And okay, so they were not able to scale it, and hence they were not able to appear or make themselves manifest. Scale it refers to the who, it refers to the wall actually, right? And wall is jidar, which again the wall appears in the story of Khidr al-Islam. You go and find out. Even if I make a mistake, you find out. So that's masculine gender wall, and so the referencing through the pronoun is he, but it means it, we know that. Now why were they not able to scale it? Because of the perfect construction. I said one thing in connection to the last verse. I don't know if you remember it now. If not, then you can actually go and watch that session once again, in connection to the lecture in connection to verse number 96, right? So basically, you remember the iron, which seems obvious, strong material. Why was copper poured? Okay, one reason could be to make an alloy, and alloy strengthens a metal. Fine. The copper was poured on it. Okay, and I think I could add one more thing. The construction site, the blow with your bellows and that fire, whatever was mentioned. So that could have signified both the things, both the processes actually, both the extraction of the iron from the iron ore as well as the melting of the copper. I think I missed that part. Anyway, so we now covered that, and I sincerely hope that you're covering this Surah Kahf in a series, Suwratul-Kahfi in a series, as it should be, right? So that was the easier thing. Copper was added not just for the alloy part, that is there, that's the secondary part. It gives a perfect finish, smooth finish, perfect texture, smooth texture. So now so you remember the mountain climbers, the rock climbers, they use their hooks or whatever you call that, their gadgets or instruments. They tie themselves and they use that to sort of get hold onto a grip. If the surface is smooth because of perfect construction, and why perfect I have mentioned in the previous verse, right? The word sawa was used over there. So because of the perfect nature of the construction and the smooth finish, they were not able to grip that. So though it's easier comparatively compared to the whole, still they were not able to grip that, and then hence they were not able to scale it. And as a result of which, what happened was, and appear on the inhabited side. They were not able to do that, and appear on the inhabited side. Now the word Zahara comes first time. Even the very thought of this relatively easier act didn't occur to them. So now I'll come to the second point of why is ta'u is used. Can you see the letter ta over there? And seen in the ta, the non-base letters, which together add meaning. Together they contribute to the meaning of to seek something, to seek obedience, and hence to be able. If you remember, good. If you don't remember, go and revisit those verses where this word occurred, the variant of this word, which from the same root word it's derived. You will not be able to have patience with me. 3 times it occurred, and 1 time another, I think, but 4th time when the incident had already happened. See, you are not able to have patience with me. You will not be able to have patience with me. You will not be able to have patience with me. You will not be able to have patience with me. 3 times, a bit of variation was there. I had explained at that time. And finally, he said, you were not able to see, you were not able to have patience with me. And I think it was used one more time during the story of the rich man and the poor man, the 2 men. Anyway, so the same root word is there, from where itat is also derived. Tawa'a, that trilateral root word, which means to obey. So seeking obedience, so to be able. So I have explained all of those, right? So now the 2 non-base letters, one is missing. So can you see the word, sorry, the harf or the letter ta over here? You can't. It's hidden. It's hidden. So the thought was hidden to them. Even the very thought of this relatively easier act didn't occur to them, as if it was hidden that this is also a possibility. How remarkable can it be? And hence, in turn, they were hidden from the community, the inhabitants, the locals. They were hidden. The ta is missing. The third balaga reason. I mean, how more profound can it be? And the scholars, you just alim and whatever, ulama, the plural of alim, ulama. Huh? You are able to decipher all of these, and you have big mouths and big talks. Just humble yourself before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And focus. The Quran is for understanding, it's for guidance. Don't deviate the masses. So, and in turn, they were hidden from the community. Otherwise, explain to me why the ta is missing. Oh, Allah made it missing. And we accept. I also accept. Don't talk some rubbish reasons, nonsensical reasons. I also know Allah made it, so there must be a valid reason. What is the valid reason? If you can't give a valid reason, then know that this is the valid reason. At least 3 of the reasons which I was able to come up with. These are balaga. These are not grammatical rules. And if you can find me a better reason, I'm game for it. I'll accept it as the 4th one, maybe even the foremost one. Why not? But if you don't have any explanation, then when the explanation reaches you, accept it. That's the least you can do with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the least that is expected from a true Muslim, a mu'min, and forget about Muslim being a Muslim. That's another level. First you become a Muslim and a Muslim, and then you think about becoming a Muslim. First Islam, then Iman, then Ihsan. Okay, so in turn, they were hidden from the community. That is also hinted. The ta. So 3 reasons I gave you. First is, it's easier, so the easier act, suggesting the easier act compared to the normal act, the normal spelling. We shouldn't say the more difficult one. The second is, so they could not appear, the Zahara and that one, since they were not able to skill, they could not appear Zahara, and the ta is missing, so they, as if they could not appear on the inhabited side. And third one is, the ta is missing. The very thought of this relatively easier act did not even occur to them, right? And the 4th point is, since they were not able to do that, in turn what happened was, the outcome or the result is, they were hidden from the community. Ta is missing. Okay? Okay. Wama, nor istatau, nor were they able to, lahu, for it, or in it, or through it, nakban, make a hole. Nakban means make a hole. It's a noun. Making a hole. I mean, to make a hole may seem, what should it seem? It may seem a verb, but the concept, to make a hole, that concept. So for example, he did, that's verb, but to do is the concept. Doing is a concept. To make is a concept, to make a whole. Lahu in it. But the nasab comes first in the translation, right? There is an emphasis, and I don't know, I mean, we can capture the emphasis, but not really required over here. The emphasis has been already sort of hinted in the first part itself, though it's not directly related. So, I mean, in any case, to translate the nasab is what is required in the English language, and that's what we are doing, nor were they able to make a whole in it. The basic translation we'll explore, we'll expand a little bit more. Now, Nakman is to make a whole, the basic translation. In it, in the wall, right? This is the more difficult act comparatively. This is the standard act. Now, two more things were happening. Now, to make a whole is fine, while lahu is used, not fihi, right? Fihi, in it, or through it, something like that, while lahu. So, for it means, so in it means that they were actually not able to make any breach. They were not able to make any hole in it, right? Simple. Fihi would have meant that. They were not able to make a hole in it. Through it means complete breach. So you can see from this side to the other side. So forget about through it. In it also they were not able to make a hole. Through it means already a breach. But in it also little bit dent they were not able to make. Now there's one more thing. So Allah intended for it, for the wall, that they will never be able to make a hole in it till an appointed time. So now we can actually refer to the hadith of Tirmizi. It's a long hadith, we'll not bring the entire hadith into this discussion. We can discuss that. That's an interesting hadith that will expand the scope of the story of Gog and Magog beautifully, and we'll do that in a separate session, inshallah. This series is for Surah-Al-Kahf, Suratul-Kahfi. So basically, it so happened that every night they would make a hole, and then next day they would return, and the hole would be filled. That is by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And something similar is also mentioned about the wall a little bit later. We'll come across the mercy of Allah in connection with that statement of mine. That is because of the mercy of Allah. It's as if they felt what's happening. It's as if by magic it filled. So I hinted during the story of Khidr al-Salam that when he repaired the wall, it could be either through physical labor or through some sort of powers he was blessed with. Why did I say at that time? I did not elaborate. It's possible. I kept both options open. I'm not insisting on one or the other. Not required. That's not the important part of the story, of the historical narrative. Over here as well, how did it fill up? You can say Allah made it fill up. Okay, fine. There also Allah blessed him. Did Isa alayhi salam perform miracles or not? Raising a dead man alive. Yes, it's a miracle. It's not in the capacity of a normal human being, not even a prophet, unless he is gifted with special powers. So similarly, Khidr Islam, why not? The most knowledgeable person in the history of humanity. That's a possibility. So if you connect the wall to the wall, and isn't it interesting, that story and this story, both the stories contain the wall, and that possibility now opens up. By the will of Allah, it became filled, no dent. Again, they would try to make a hole. Again, the next day it would fill up. And one day, they would say inshallah, and the power of inshallah related back to verse number 23 and 24, I guess, 23, 24, somewhere around that. When the Prophet Muhammad forgot to say inshallah, it was a lapse. It was not a sin or a crime. It was a lapse, a minor lapse. And the way Allah catches hold of him, holds him accountable for that. So the higher the status of someone in the sight of Allah, the greater the test for him. So one day they would say inshallah, and this is the hadith narrative I'm talking about. And the next day they would find the the dent as is. And then they eventually was able to breach it, the power of inshallah. I mean, why did Allah bless them with the inshallah? No, it's not like that. They were meant to be a test, and they are a test. And then it was breached. And it will not get breached in the future. Thank you. Don't spread this nonsense. Just make an effort to read the books of history, Tariq, by our scholars. You'll find out it was breached long time back. So much so that the Prophet That's in a hadith as well, that one day he woke up and said, this day I fear that, okay, there is a hole in it. And why would he be fearful? Because if the hole has been made, means the next day, so was it referring to any other day in which the hole was made and it was filled up? No, because then that's not a cause of concern, that will continue to happen. But when the hole is made and it remained, now the Prophet ﷺ knows that the time is there when the wall will be breached, and that will be terrible. The Gog and Magog again will continue perpetrating their destruction. So in that context, so that was that. So that day it was breached, and during the Caliphate era itself, I will not tell you which Caliph, you find out, do some research, we'll cover this in a separate topic inshallah. And he sent a delegation and the wall was no more. So it's not been there for a long time now. Okay, don't spread your misinterpretation of certain hadiths based on your lack of knowledge of the Arabic language and suggest the wall is still there, and suggest the wall is there, it's a mystery, we don't know. Don't talk all those nonsense. I don't buy that. So they were not able to make a hole. Forget about making a hole through it. They were not able to make a hole in it till a certain point of time. And then obviously the fulfillment. And that fulfillment will also be spoken about in Suratul-Kahfi. And you also need to read Surah Anbiya in connection to this to make sense of the geopolitical reality of the modern world and age. That will give you more details about that. So to make a hole through it, forget about not even able to make a hole in it till a certain point of time. I'm stressing that again and again. And if you thought the explanation is over, well, in a way it's over. But let me catch hold of you people about the word nakban. Sorry, nakban over here. The word that you use, niqab, to refer to the Islamic dress code for ladies, for sisters. What sort of a shameless terminology is that? The word niqab, or the root word naqaba, has not been used in the Quran anywhere to refer to the niqab, the face veil or the veil. Never, not once. And you suggest that is the word for the Islamic dress code for sisters? No. The word used in the Quran is different. Go and find out. Or ask me a question in the comments. I'll respond to that. We'll make an entire topic on that. Niqab is not the word. There are other words used. And what is the requirement of the dress code? We'll explain at that time. It means, do you know the word niqab in that sense? It can be so derogatory. It means you give the lady, a sister, a cloth, and you make a hole in it, and you give that. The very term is so derogatory. A torn cloth. It sounds so ridiculously odd, awkward, rubbish. A torn or a tattered piece of cloth. In that context, go and find out what are the two words used in the Quran for the Islamic, in reference to Islamic dress code for sisters. Go and find out. Niqab is not used. Neither is niqab a requirement. So we are going into a different topic, different direction. So as and when we'll have to cover that topic, we'll have to do that in full. We'll have to do full justice to it. So I think whatever different points we wanted to convey, we have been able to, I hope so. So what we'll do is we'll read this one more time, as always, so that now with all of this background, it will begin to make perfect sense to you, and why you will also understand why all the three lines are so very necessary. It's not my sort of flexing of muscles to showcase or to show or to demonstrate my ability in the English language. No. Every word mentioned over there is a requirement arising from the construct. How else would you use zahara? Huh? How? So let's read once more. Fama ista'u an yazharuhu wama istata'u lahu naqban. So neither were they able to scale it because of the perfect construction and appear on the inhabited side, Even the very thought of this relatively easier act didn't occur to them. In turn, they were hidden from the community, nor were they able to make a hole in it or through it.